Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke with Reverend Yutaka Yamada on this day, Monday, the 15th of March, which is also the 3rd day of February in the 9th year of Chongyilguk. Let's begin by offering a bow to our Heavenly Parent and our true parents. Chariot, Kyombe, Paro. And we'll recite our family pledge in Korean and English. Thank you.
가전맨세 8. 전위국 주인 우리 가족은 참 사랑을 중심하고 전위국 시대를 맞이하여 절대 신앙, 절대 사랑, 절대 복종으로 신인의 일제 이상을 이루어 지산 정국과 전산 정국의 해방권과 석방권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 8. Our family, the owner of Chongyilguk, pledges having entered the era of Chongyilguk to achieve the ideal of God and human beings united in love through absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience, and to perfect the realm of liberation and complete freedom in the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven by centering on true love. Thank you. I'd like to ask Greg Stone if you could offer the opening prayer.
Dearest Heavenly Parents, true parents, heaven, earth, and kind, good morning. Thank you for this great opportunity to begin the day centered on your word and studying together, and especially we could be together as an Oceania region in this 40-day condition. We want to be united, centering on True Mother, and also Reverend Yutaka, our leadership structure, so that we can prepare well for the very exciting providence ahead. We're working in this Vision 2020 second 7-year course, culminating in restoration of 7 regions, 1/3 of the population, and also the restoration, peaceful reunification of North and South Korea. What incredibly exciting goals and providence, but we need to mobilize the heavens, spiritual world right now, centered on True Father, Spirit world, True Mother on earth. So we really pray that we can be united, especially Oceania, which is the feminine region, and we pray that we can be fully united with True Mother and be able to fulfill the providential responsibility we have. Please guide us in this time, especially as we center on Mother's autobiography. You can guide and inspire our hearts and minds. Thank you so much. We offer our morning devotion, pray in the name of Greg and Rachel Stone, Blessed Central Family, Jew.
Jew. Thank you. That's good morning, everyone. We have 41 participants at the moment, so let's give a good welcome to Reverend Yutaka as he shares Hundok with us. Thank you. Good
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning devotion and Fundoke together with our all family from Oceania and from each nations. So each beginning of the day, really we can have a great time together. So in Sydney, suddenly last night or this morning, really getting cold. So I don't know, this season is really changing now. How about another city? Is everything same? Melbourne side?
Yeah, it's getting pretty cold in Melbourne.
Cold, right? Yes. Brisbane side now, Reverend John arrived in Brisbane last night. So a little bit now 5 a.m. in Brisbane, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And island nation is still summer, right? Yes, maybe.
Also very cold.
Oh, really? Yes. So each day we can feel the changing of the nature, spring and summer and autumn and winter. So through offering the fundoke and also the morning devotion, in the same time how we can feel the changing of the providential season, and also how we can feel today's Heavenly Parent's heart and today's true parent's heart. If we can check and if we can connect our heart and our Heavenly Parent's heart and true parent's heart, then this is the way to become filial son and filial daughter. So always in the beginning of the day, let's also pray well and offer chanson to our Heavenly Parents and true parents. So let's continue. So yesterday, we saw the contents. Finally, true mother and Temonim and grandmother settled down in Seoul after moving from north to south. But suddenly, North Korean army attacked and came into the Seoul. Then suddenly, they have to move out again to more southern place. So those situations we saw that. And especially yesterday, our Dr. Joshinta shared one part. So I want to check this point again, and we want to continue to the next part. So let's see this. Okay. On the evening on June 27, 1950, 2 days after the start of the Korean War, Seoul, this was war. My grandmother, mother, and I joined the exodus with our bundle, following the slow moving toward the Han River Bridge. When its dim shape appeared in the dark, something told me to stop, and I grabbed my grandmother's skirt. She stopped in her tracks, and my mother turned and asked her, "Mother, what's wrong?" Grandmother looked up at the sky and then glanced down at me. Then she turned her head again in the direction of our house. "Sunjon may come," she said with a steady tone, speaking of her son, my uncle. It seemed senseless to turn around when everyone else was fleeing the city, but she was firm. "Let's go back in case he does." So when we read this part, surely your mother felt something, and she stood and she grabbed grandmother's skirt. Then grandmother felt also something, and she changed the destiny. Maybe grandmother also concerned something but couldn't decide. But mother's inspiration something from heaven, and mother stopped stink to grandmother. Then grandmother decided to move back to the house. So this kind of the special inspiration, true mother is really sensitive, and true mother could catch something, some sign from the heaven. That's why this all of them could change the way and could go back to home and could meet Uncle Sunjon, and finally could escape that kind of the serious situation to cross over the Hangan River and to go to south. So really this part is important. So thank you our Dr. Joshinta to share and point out this point. So Trumada received some special spiritual guidance and inspiration, and because of this also change the direction. So let's continue. So this is the Hangan Korean rivers photo. So this is the photo of the bridge before it was blown up. So this is all the photo. You can see the shape, right? And after that, this is the after it was blown out. So can you see the differences? This is really a little bit clear and good photo, but totally destroyed in that place. Even today, whenever I cross a bridge over the Han River, I see that blue flash and hear people's agonized screams echoing as if they still are burning in hell. My heart aches at the sound. As a young age, I directly witnessed the horror of war and experienced the wretched life of a refugee. The simple and innocent were killed like flies. Children who had lost their parents were crying and wandering in the streets. I was only 7, but I became so serious that war has to vanish forever from this world. It took place 70 years ago, but my throat still tightens when I recall the night the Han River Bridge fell. That moment was really impacted and surprising moment. Mother ride the truck together with Uncle Sunjun and mother and grandmother and went to Han River. That time many people also going together they are going by walk and they are going by truck and just finished crossing the river. Suddenly that river was exploded and that river was blown up and all people who are there was thrown out. And that time Mother was there and she felt that kind of shocking, shaking and sound and light. For the 7 years young girl, how much this moment is the shocking and surprising moment. Nowadays and currently already the bridge was built newly and everyone is using using as a daily life. But whenever Tirumada passed and crossed that river, Tirumada could remember always that moment. So how much this feeling is fearful and really traumatic memory in Tirumada. So Tirumada is really spiritually feeling, but that's why she could feel the people's feeling more, people suffering more, and people's painful heart more. So we could see how that time was serious or special moment. Left by my uncle who had to return to military duty, barely able to keep ourselves in one piece. My grandmother, mother, and I walked and walked on unfamiliar path, heading south. Once in a while, we got a ride in a passing car, presenting a document as to my uncle's position as a medic. We finally gained shelter in a refugee camp for military families. So even in this place, because Uncle Sunjan's position and also special document, they could get the benefit and finally they could get also the refugee camp for military family. So in the Korean War, military was the most main power to protect and fight with North Korea. So perhaps government really took care the military's family. So how much the protection and how much this environment for Tirumada's and grandmother and Temonim at least little bit better place for compare with another person. So even this place, the Uncle Sunjan's position, then heaven's guidance, we could see how grateful. As the tide of the war shifted on September 28, we returned to Seoul. The South Korean military had driven out the communists and reconstructed a passable bridge across the river. We lodged in an empty house, one that the soldiers from the north had occupied, to which the owners did not return. So September 28, around one or two months, already Korean army together with American or together with UN army, they pushed them out to the north. That's why they could come back to Seoul and they could get the house in the Seoul. But what's happened again? Then the tide of war turned again. Half a million communist Chinese troops invaded Korea across the Yalu River. On January 4, 1951, the South Korean army again abandoned Seoul, and we again had to escape. This time, we were able to board a train for the family of soldiers, and we safely arrived in the city of Daegu. So again, North Korea, and this time that half million of communist Chinese troops invaded Korea. That was 1951, January 4. So this is also after 2 months. Just stay for Seoul for 2 months. Then North Korean army and with Chinese army come to south. But that time they could get the train as the family of army. Then they could go to Daegu. The day after day, sights and sounds of our year-long wilderness course from the north to the south defy description. I saw countless dead bodies, adults, children, victims of freezing, starvation, disease, and battle. So Trimada really see the dead body, adult, children, victim of freezing and starvation, and disease and battle. 1951, January. So in Korea, in January, do you experience the weather of January in Korea? This winter time, maybe you went to Cheongbyeong, January, God's Day, and February, to your parents' birthday. How much cold that time? There is so many snow and almost minus 20 degrees in Seoul or in Korea. And under the war, how much cold? That's why many people also die under this kind of weather. So not only just the army situation or war situation, also weather situation was really severe for them. So that time we could imagine how much painful or how much cold and how much suffering time for each person, children, adult, or everyone. So in Korean War, we heard many times, but not only just one of the story, that time was really serious. North side and south side, many times fighting and go and back and go and back. So I prepared a 3 short video. So I want to show one by one. So I hope you to enjoy, to imagine about Korean War. So just a minute. Maybe remove the spotlight. Okay, let's see.
The Korean War, June 25, 1950 through July 27, 1953. At the end of World War II in 1945, Korea was freed from Japanese control. North Korea was occupied by the Soviets while the South was occupied by American forces. By 1948, the country was divided in half at the 38th parallel, with the capitalist South ruled by Syngman Rhee and the communist North ruled by Kim Il-sung. The Soviet troops withdrew from Korea in 1948, and U.S. troops withdrew in 1949. However, North and South Korea, as enemies of one another, would not accept the border between them as permanent. The North Koreans attacked South Korea on June 25, 1950, advancing across the 38th parallel. Around 75,000 troops of the North Korean People's Army defeated the Republic of Korea's army with success, capturing the capital city of Seoul, then occupying the whole of South Korea except for Busan. This was a problem, as President Truman and the United States wanted to contain the spread of communism by preventing the domino effect. That is, if Korea fell, so would other countries to the ideology. South Korea appealed for support, and the United States pushed a resolution through the United Nations Security Council. The USSR did not use its veto power, as it was boycotting the council because the new communist China was not accepted. In China's seat was the pro-US Chinese nationalist government of Taiwan. An appeal was made by the Security Council for North Korea to withdraw its troops, but was ignored. As a result, approval was granted for a UN army made up of an international force of 16 nations to send help to South Korea, commanded by General Douglas MacArthur. The UN troops, composed mainly of Americans, landed in South Korea in early July, but were soon pushed back on the defense by the North Korean forces, forming a perimeter around Busan to defend the line until reinforcements arrived in August. Now that their position was strengthened, MacArthur went on the offensive. On September 15th, the U.S. Marines X-Corps launched an amphibious assault at Incheon. The North Korean troops were pushed back on the retreat over the 38th parallel, and soon Seoul was recaptured along with the whole of South Korea by the end of the month. Now, MacArthur was to go beyond the initial idea of containment. Truman, worried of a Chinese response, nevertheless approved, and UN troops moved into North Korea on October 7, 1950. On October 12th, they captured Pyongyang, the North Korean capital, and then the Yalu River, which was the border with communist China. China retaliated by helping the North Koreans, sending 250,000 Chinese troops. The UN troops, overwhelmed by this new force, were pushed out of North Korea with heavy losses. By January 1951, Chinese and North Korean troops had captured Seoul. General MacArthur wanted to use the atom bomb on China and was dismissed for insubordination by President Truman, who went back to a policy of containment. In June 1951, more UN troops were sent to Korea, eventually driving the North Korean army to the 38th parallel and stabilizing the front. Now, a stalemate set in. In July, peace talks began, but a compromise could not be found. Meanwhile, fighting continued, and American pilots fought in the air against Soviet pilots using Chinese jet fighters and wearing Chinese uniforms. General Dwight D. Eisenhower took over as president in early 1953 and sought an end to the war. After 2 years of negotiation, an armistice was signed on July 27, 1953, at Panmunjom on the 38th parallel. A demilitarized zone was set up, which stands to this day.
Yes, thank you. So if you see the video, easy to imagine about Korean War, right? South and Korea, North and South. Few times those situations was happen. So before going to second video, I want to ask you, so during this time, where your father stay? In Hunnam prison. Maybe you know, everyone know about this. Then which day your father was released from Hunnam prison by UN Army?
October 14th,
Which year?
1950.
Yes, 1950, October 14. So you can see 1950, August, your mother escaped from Seoul to Daegu or another place and go back after 2 months. And after 2 months, 1951, January, also your mother escape again. So during that time, your father in Hunnam, but army, no UN army bombed to the Funan prison, and he could escape in 1950, October 14. So you can see how this time period was changing and how God's work or this work was happened. So next video you could see this one. So please check the date. The more easy to recognize True Mother place and True Father's place and Aramis place.
The Korean War.
This one.
The Korean
Yes, so this is the movement, North Korean side and South Korean side. So this movement, you can see the map. So this movement, because not only one time, North Korea came and South Korea go up again and North Korea come down again. That's why this result of war was really serious. Many people was died. But when we see this movement, nearly around October 1950, so almost UN army going up. So that almost that end of that area, North Korean side and the UN side, almost that area is the Funan prison. So this one just short moment. So this UN army totally really looks like only saving the True Father, and immediately north side is coming down. We can see this kind of movement couldn't occupy all Northern Korean area until the end. Immediately China army also came, but that kind of 1 month or 2 months time period, during short period, True Father could come out from the prison, and he could come down to the South Korea. So even this place, we could see the battle of heaven side, God's side, and also Satan's side.
The Korean War broke out after they went to the south. At 3 o'clock in the morning on June 28th, her uncle, who heard the news of the demolition of Hanggang River, hastened their pace. As soon as they crossed the bridge, in his military jeep, the bridge was destroyed. Everyone behind them fell to their death. It seemed that heaven was watching over Grandmother Hong, and her daughter, Mrs. Moon, recalls today that the war made her young life difficult, but she was able to live through its safety because heaven protected her.
Yes. So this is the last slide. My family and I also teetered on the brink of death, but somehow throughout this journey for survival, I felt God was with us. There was a greater power protecting our family as we escaped the north and found refuge in the south. Heavenly Parent gave me more than a sense of meaning and value. He provided me with a scale by which to measure my purpose in life. When we see the True Mother's life moving as refugee, even in the danger and suffering situation, but True Mother and this Temonim and grandmother was guided by many people and protected, and many kind of under the many people's decision, then finally they survive well, safely, and they could go to the new place. So really we could see how God, how heaven protected True Mother and True Mother's family, and True Mother herself also seriously think about life and death, and people's life and people's death. That's why those moments also conversation with God, and really asking question and asking how life itself. So when we see True Mother's life course, we could see how much serious and how much difficult situation True Mother could overcome during that period. So there are many kind of things from north and south and moving, but finally after Korean War, True Mother could get the peaceful place and going to the next stage. So next time we could see the next story, but before going to next story, tomorrow I want to share the True Father's life course during 1945 to 1950. During that period, True Father went to North Korea and met the several spiritual group, and also went to the Hunnam prison. So this time period, True Mother's area and the True Father's side totally working together. So tomorrow I want to share a little bit about True Father's course during that period, how True Father experienced and the feeling and overcome, and God was guided to True Father also. So today we share about especially the Korean War and how God's work under that kind of circumstances to protect True Mother and also protect True Mother. So we could connect ourselves to Heavenly Parent's heart, True Father's heart, and True Mother's heart together. So today also we will start the new day. We will pray and we will connect our True Parent's heart, and let's create the great day today. Thank you very much for joining. Have a good day. Have a great day.
Thank you, Reverend Yutaka. Yeah. Yes. It's really quite amazing the absolute those videos really put a clearer picture on the circumstance, what Mother had to suffer through, but also we really can see how, you know, our Heavenly Parent, you know, truly protected Mother, that she, you know, was also enabled, you know, to see that God, you know, has given her a special purpose, and that, you know, made her really be more committed to fulfilling. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like for a 7-year-old girl to see so much death and suffering around, and not just, you know, from the war, but from the weather, and you know, to see her people, you know, just, you know, being broken that way, and really determined, like Father, you know, to resolve it once and for all. So thank you. I can see Santosh's hand is up. Go ahead, Santosh.
Good morning, Hitaka-san and all leaders, brothers and sisters. What an amazing presentation, Hitaka-san. I studied Korean history, and whenever I read True Parents' autobiography, True Fathers and True Mothers' autobiography, I used to just parallelly compare what was happening in Korea and what happened to parents' life. But I was just doing by myself. But Yutaka-san made it at a lecture manual. So I really thank Yutaka-san from bottom of my heart for doing this. As a leader, Yutaka-san is really showing very us to follow this thing that we need to do. So I think right after the border will open, Yutaka-san will be very busy traveling to each and every country with true parents' life education, centering on true father autobiography and true mother's autobiography, and Korean history parallelly. Not only, I feel my experience is teaching true parents' life to Ambassador for Peace is amazing. I have experienced that in Nepal, and I experienced this in Fiji too. So Ambassador for Peace, they become very excited, and they're very curious to know about true parents' life. So I believe we can even do 3 days a true parents' life course in this same pattern to all the members and Ambassador for Peace. It's amazing. This is all my reflection for today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Santosh. Who else would like to go next? Yes, Douglas, go ahead.
Yeah, as we go over all these experiences right after World War II, we keep on running into the number 70 years. 70 years since the North Korean country came into existence, 70 years since the Korean War. Mother mentions it in her book several times. Another 70-year thing that showed up is that, you know, a life cycle in China is called 60 years. But 60 years and 70 years are both very significant birthdays. It means coming out of something, you know, and bringing to fruition. General MacArthur was 70 years old just before he landed in Incheon, you know? So in a sense, he was standing on a pinnacle of life accomplishment, you know? But the wonderful thing about him is that in America, he's known as a great general in accomplishing victory of war. But he's also known as the founder of the peace development of American military. He is the man who represents the beginning of the desire to militarily build peace on earth, you know? And even his name, Douglas, it stands for now I see through a glass darkly, but when that which is perfect comes, I will see face to face. For him with that name to be working at this time to liberate the Messiah at 70 years of age in Korea, which is going through all these 70-year significant developments, is just another phenomenon, I think. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. I saw Jacinta's hand there earlier. Yes, Jacinta.
Yeah, good morning, brothers and sisters. I was very interested to see that video showing the flow of the North Korean army into the south and back up to the north and came back down to Seoul and then back up. I just want to point out that the Commonwealth forces, in particular Australia, were very important in stopping what would have been the final takeover of Seoul in April 1951. They were involved in the Battle of Gapyeong, and this was actually very key to protecting the whole Cheongpyeong area, which now, of course, is the starting point of Cheongguk. So the Australians were on a very low hill, and there were Canadians on a very high hill on either side of the river that runs further up from Cheongpyeong. It was in Gapyeong. It's not very far from, the Cheongpyeong area. And against, all odds, the Chinese wave of soldiers was much greater than the numbers of Australian and Canadian soldiers, and they held out. And this was just right around Anzac Day as well. So somehow Australian forces had a very important role to play in protecting the Trumpet area.
Thank you, Jacinta. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yes, Greg, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to add our New Zealand because we went to the war memorial there in Gapyong, and there's also, particularly the New Zealanders were involved in the artillery in that battle. So it wasn't Anzac. It wasn't just Australia. It was the actually Anzacs, Australia and New Zealand. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And Chris, go ahead.
Oh, just one more aspect that if you read Edgar Casey's books, he speaks about that meeting in the UN to decide what was going to happen with Korea. And he said, at that meeting, Christ will sit and angels will fight. And they really wanted to liberate all of Korea. So MacArthur was fighting with all that spiritual forces to try and convince people to totally push the forces out. But in the end, it didn't eventuate. Just to add that extra element, everybody was, spirit world and physical world were full on fighting for that.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Now there's an opportunity for those that aren't usually sharing can share. Yes, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Just I want to share a reflection on reading True Mother's biography. From my experience so far in my faith, I was more connected to True Father than True Mother. And anyway, reading through True Mother's our autobiography, I started to have more close holistic relationship with True Mother, and that is my feeling so far. And I hope I should see or focus more of my support and faith in True Mother's course, this coming 7-year course, and also to follow more of True Mother's direction as she's leading today's Providence, especially in this region, in this for this region, and particularly for Solomon Islands. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Tsuneko, go ahead.
I just felt that, do you remember 2009, the Little Angels come to Korean War, thank for anniversary Korean War to all over Commonwealth country. That is father's Commonwealth country. Then a father's, I just realized because age-wise, Little Angels age-wise, 7 to 13 to the young girl, a young boy, that is a kind of True Mother also at that time, 7 years old. Therefore, peace is an angel come down to sort of angels, like a true mother, also at that time, same age, then peace is coming from, I really felt it, real angels telling us to thank you. And also they honestly, pure heart, that's all the peace ambassador or higher people can melt it. Then I realized a very, very important Korean word to at that time is to parents, to mission. That's I felt. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Arai, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you today again, and congratulations, Douglas, today. And, it's a good intervention when North Army almost attacking Busan area. Then mysteriously they stopped 3 days. 3 days. If they did not stop 3 days, it's they taken Busan. I remember when World War II, Dunkirk retreat. It's English soldier, maybe John knows, I think, more than me. Retreat, 300,000 army. Then German tank going to attack. Then they stopped 3 days. I don't know why. If German did not stop, it's Dunkirk retreat fail. And so they, amazing, it's 3 days, God intervention, something got working. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arai. A small piece from Douglas there, looks like his.
As I was telling the story about General MacArthur's name, Douglas, I completely forgot my own name was Douglas.
Sure. All right, thank you. Actually, when Peter was talking about how he's experiencing mother more, that before more focused on father and now mother, I've actually noticed many members are like that. But my personal experience is very, very different, because I mentioned the other day that I joined on the strength that father was my father, and then found out he was the Messiah. I had the same experience at our blessing in 1982, because in 1982, with father, it was an experience that lasted for about half an hour of this elation. But with mother, I had the experience at the blessing, going into spirit world. I won't go into a long story, but going into spirit world and only seeing father and mother's face. And then when we went to bow, mother spoke and asked, where I'm from, and I stuttered Australia. And then I had this overwhelming feeling that mother is my mother. So at the blessing, mother was my mother. And then when I came back, I was in England at the time, I came back to England. Every time I entered the prayer room for a few months, I would have this same experience with the photo as I did with father, but with mother. And I just had this overwhelming waves of love coming from mother, which lasted for several months. So mother and father, to me, right at the beginning of my faith, are my parents. And so when all this happened with father going to spirit world and people confused by mother, I just found it so incredulous. I mean, they are true parents, and they are our parents. And so I was happy to hear that Peter has recognized, and as many members starting to recognize, that mother really is the representation of the Holy Spirit on earth, and is the feminine aspect of God. So it's great to share an experience. So we've got time for one more. who would like to share? Is that your hand there, Rex? I can see.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, yeah, I'm following the Hundokwe almost every day, and from all but True Father's autobiography and True Mothers. So I just only realized that it's true, as the Bible says, Heavenly Parent God does not do anything without revealing His secret. So, and also I can realize that why in the family place number 5, we always recite that we have to strive every day to unify the spiritual and physical world, so that the Heavenly Parent can pour His wisdom, His inspiration to all of us. So, but I just can see that really what happened during in a True Father's life, True Mother's life wasn't just not something just happened suddenly, but it was just God's plan. God's plan. And what we are receiving now from our True Mother is also always helping us, pushing us to establish, to accomplish our HCM. So it's not just by chance, but it's a God's Heavenly Parent's will. So really feeling to understand that really it was not just something happened and suddenly, but because there's some kind of foundation through the family of a true father, family of a true mother, that's why everything just was happening like that. So it might happen to each one of us in our families if we can really take up our responsibility. So thank you once again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to hear from you, Rex. So now it's time to offer our unison prayer together. I'll just change and share the screen. Just 1 second. Okay, let's pray together. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Thank you, everyone, and it's great to share with you in the morning. And have a great day, and see you tomorrow.
God bless everyone.
Bye bye.
You.
Have a great day.
Yes.
Bye.
You.
You.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Jacinta.